does such a brilliant job of capturing many, many moments that are different today than they were just yesterday. And the conversation that is now in the forefront is it cell phones' fault? Like, I don't think it was cell phones that are the decision. They're decisions we made, right? It's decisions that we're making with our cell phones and what we're doing with our cell phones that's causing this conversation. My favorite one is the birthday one at the end, because you can see the guy whose birthday it is, he's videoing it, he's so excited, and then all his friends aren't even singing, they're just taking selfies with the birthday boy, and it's so interesting because we're not in the moment. And another comedian obviously makes a pretty good joke in the context of, what are we even taking all these videos and pictures for? Like, well, we're filling up hard drives, and we're like, that's my Disneyland, hard drive, and this is because we're filling them up and we're never looking at them again. And so it's really, really interesting. We're not enjoying those moments. Again, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the conversation we're having. So what has cell phones done that we can actually point to? Well, some science tells us that cell phones have changed our perspective of how we talk about ourselves. In fact, when we use social media and cell phones, we talk about ourselves 80% of the time. Whereas if we were in person, we talk about ourselves 35% of the time. So what I mean by that is we talk immediately when we get up. We post something that says, hey, this is me waking up. Hey, this is what I'm eating today. This is my morning hair, blah, blah, blah. And we go through that whole conversation throughout the day about me. But when we go in person and we have a dinner, it's still understood that we should only talk about ourselves a little of the time, when asked, and not 80% of the time. So that's interesting that when we're online with our phones, we'll talk about ourselves a whole lot, but yet we still know internally we shouldn't do that in person. And that's just an interesting science right there. The second one is my most favorite to discuss with students. Multitasking versus distraction. And I think probably we've had the same argument with our spouse or other family members. I'm not distracted, I'm multitasking. And so there's a lot of interesting science here, and I always like to point out with students, just giving a real example, saying, have you ever started reading a book when you had homework at night and your phone goes off? So you pick up your phone and you respond, you put the phone down, and you start reading again and realize, I don't really remember where I was. So you start back off at the top of the page, phone goes off, you check it, you put it down, you go back, start back at the top of the page, and after a half an hour, they've read one paragraph, and they still don't know what it says. Because we're not actually multitasking, we're distracted. So most science would say that the majority of our brain has to be focused on one major task at a time. So much so that now they're saying, not only do cell phones cause a risk when we're driving, with our hands, they're saying, what about hands-free? So now the science is saying, no, hands-free calls are just as dangerous as the other because we're using so much brain function. That's why when there is a bunch of people being rowdy in your car and you're lost, what do? You turn down the radio. We think it's funny, but it's a truth. They were like, calm down, shh. And you turn the radio down and you got to try to pay attention because you got to focus in on whatever it is that you're doing. You're not multitasking very well. You're just distracting yourself, and sometimes you do it better than other times. The third one there is 52% of all car crashes are now caused by a cell phone involved. In fact, I got myself pulled over today, which was really, really fun. And I just remember yet again on my little ticket, I didn't get a ticket, I got the warning, but at the very top right corner it says, was there a cell phone in use? And they check the box if there is or isn't. I didn't. But I also know this on the cop side of every single time. I remember when I started as an officer and then when I ended here recently, how there wasn't that checkbox on the form. There wasn't a cell phone checkbox, and now there is a cell phone checkbox on the form, and that wasn't very long ago. We're talking about the last 5 years. So the next one, phantom vibration syndrome. 89% of people say they've had that experience where their phone shakes in their pocket, so they reach into their pocket, and yet they don't have their phone in their pocket. You know what I'm talking about? And so you guys, some of you are laughing going, oh, that's me. And so that's something that didn't exist 15 years ago, 10 years ago. This is a new phenomenon, and they're still doing research on it. College and employers doing research on applicants on social media, which is very, very interesting and very, very true. So one of my close friends happens to be a college football coach in Michigan. They play tomorrow, so I'm really excited. And so he was telling me how last season they actually hired a guy on their staff his whole role was to basically do research on their recruits, who they were recruiting to see what kind of presence they have online. And so if they've got two candidates that both, and when you're at a Division I level, they're a dime a dozen. We all are the same height and the same thing. And if they got two individuals that are close to the same, but this one throws their coach under the bus, and this one talks about their players negatively, or their teammates, or their parents, and just continues to air out dirty laundry online, they don't recruit that player. Why? Because they don't want to bring that kind of diversion, or rather dissension, on their program. Why bring somebody onto our team that we know is going to cause problems, that makes bold comments that are really hateful and wrong or racist or whatever on other social media accounts? We're seeing that for the first time. I was talking to a friend of mine that works at home office for Walmart, and they were saying the same thing. One of the things that we look at is social media accounts. What kind of persona are you being online? If you're continually to engage in the political conversation that leads us to no positive energy and no positive end, we're not going to be really wanting you on our team, because you'll discuss things that we don't need to discuss on a public forum as a representative of us. And this last one's probably the most scary one. That is 10% of students say that they cannot control their use of cell phones. 10%. I would like to argue that that number is ridiculously off. I would like to flip it and say that 90% of students actually can't control their use. But when asked, they said 10% admitted, I can't control the use. So when I go to schools, I ask these same questions. In fact, I actually put it towards the end of the thing because I don't want to lose you just yet, because we're going to ask you the same questions and see where you land. So right here are some of the top apps on cell phones right now today. Number one is Instagram. When it comes to streaming, Spotify continues to be a champ. Amazon Music, of course, and some of those others. YouTube Red, yet again. Games, we all know this one. Number one right now is Fortnite, and probably will be for some time. That doesn't mean that students aren't playing Minecraft or Roblox, which I found out very, very passionately today at the schools that I was at. Those are very, very still popular. Candy Crush is still in the top 5. That one blows my mind. It's basically parents playing Candy Crush. We just have to spend that 99 cents to get that final level, right? Like, this is driving me nuts. And so that is very, very true. And then concerning apps. And so again, I'm not saying evil, I'm saying concerning. And so Snapchat is still my number one concerned app, and we will talk about that one a little bit in depth here in just a minute. But some new ones that have come on the scene. Musical.ly is on there, Whisper, Kick, and then High Calculator. If you haven't heard of that one, probably the best kept secret from parents. So High Calculator, there's several more like it. High Calculator is an app that you can download and put on your phone that works just like a calculator. When you open it, it works like a calculator. But if you put in the right sequence, it will unlock hidden pictures. So you essentially can put a hidden folder on your phone with pictures, and they're all hidden within this app. So you can delete that app and re-download that app, and it's all saved in that space and not on your internal memory on your phone. That's pretty dangerous. Can you imagine? And what that would look like for individuals. And so that's interesting. Of course, Musical.ly is a really fun app. I had that question at Chisholm Elementary this morning. Do I like it? And you know what? My 8-year-old thinks it's amazing. But at the same time, it's a live functioned app. So you can imagine that there are a lot of kids on there doing the right thing, and there are a lot of kids on there doing the wrong thing. And because it's live and they record live and it posts live, things can get crazy pretty quick on Musical.ly. So we'll come back and I'll talk about it. And like we said, I'm going to try to get through some meat, and you can do whatever, take notes, middle notes, whatever. And then at the end, we'll flip around. I'll just stay for a while, and we'll do questions and anything you have in that realm. So I love to make sure that you get some concrete, what can I do, Jeff? What can I do moving forward? So I give 5 things always. My number one with cell phones is to talk. Talk as a family. Don't make assessments based on what you know or don't know about cell phones or social media and then make that the decision. Have a conversation. You'd probably be surprised at how willing your kids are at probably coming up with a more strict punishment than you do. I love doing it. It's my favorite thing to do. What do you think your punishment would be? And my seventh grader will be like, I should be grounded from Fortnite for a year. You're right, but I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm just going to do a month. Oh, thank you. Whereas if I would come to him, right, and say, you're grounded for a month, what would he do? He'd flip house. Like, what? A month? And it's so interesting when we do that way. Talking with them gives them that opportunity. Making students responsible. And so I know I'm speaking to the choir on this one. This seems like a pretty engaged group, parent-wise. And so you probably have made your kid responsible. But I hear so many kids, and more importantly, parents, who give the phone up with no strings attached. They can do whatever they want. Now, I know the conversation's changed quite a bit from even 5 years ago when we were worried that the kids would go over on their text messages and it would cost us a fortune on text messages, any ever? Or going over on their minutes. But of course, that's not the conversation anymore, is it? It's like, you know what, we'll just give you unlimited minutes and unlimited text. We don't care. Data, now let's talk numbers. That's what the cell phone companies have done to us. They've got us in their grasp. They know that. And so that's not the conversation anymore. But a lot of companies now, of course, I hear a lot of parents overnight go, we just went to unlimited because I was tired of paying the overage fees or this, that, and the other. And then interesting, not allowing or not making students be responsible. Third one, take the things away. And again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I put on there phone contracts. If you don't use a phone contract, I'm not saying you're doing it wrong. I'm saying you're making it harder on yourself. Like you really are. Like, because what a phone contract does, and you might be, well, what the heck are you talking about? What a phone contract does is it allows you guys to come up front, remember with this respond, that here's what expectations are for you using your phone. Here are the expectations that you have for us, parents, on what we think is acceptable with the phone. And if either side, does X, then Y happens. Now it's not you getting in trouble, like you yelling at your kids. When your kids do something they're not supposed to do, you're not taking the phone as a punishment to them. They gave you the phone because of a choice they made. Very, very different. Does this make sense? And I know it sounds better than it really plays out, because we just had the conversation last night with my 6th grader over a cell phone that's not even hers, but one that's just the extra phone that she uses, that you're using it way too much, and you're saying you're doing one thing and maybe you're not. So we sat down and said, let's look at the contract that we made. And it was real interesting because she typically shuts down on us, but last night she was able to respond in a way to go, okay, hold on. I am doing this, I'm not doing this. But you guys, and she points to our list of commitments, I feel like you're spying on me, which is one of the privacy things we talked about. So which we were able to say, but have you been open and honest about the things you've been doing? No. So there's where that was. That was a direct line from this one to this one. And so we were able to agree. So here we are, refresher. Now you've got the next 5 days to prove us wrong. And if not, it's on the contract what's going to happen. And so I'm just trying to save you instead coming in and immediate blowing up. You've lost your phone forever. And now let's have a plan. And so if you'd like I've got a free phone contract on our Surge Leadership page. There are several out there. You can Google it, Common Sense Media, which is something I'll come back and talk about a lot. But Common Sense Media's prop.org is by far my favorite resource out there. It's incredible for both teachers and for parents. So we'll talk about Common Sense quite a bit. But we put up the phone contract we used. I published it on Surge Leadership's Facebook page and our blog. So have a charging station. This is the number one way. You have to charge the phone, and so don't let them charge it in their bedrooms, right? Make a charging station somewhere in your house. Maybe it's in the foyer, maybe it's right at the entrance, maybe it's somewhere in the kitchen. Find a spot, make a cool little basket. There's so many fun things out there now. Plug in your thing, hide it if you need to hide it with a bush or a plant, and then run those cords into the basket, and everybody puts their phone in the basket. You've got to have a space that this is where the phones go at night. This is where the phones go at dinner. This is where the phones go when we have to have family time and talk for a little bit. They've got to have that space. They're not going to make those boundaries. That's one that I'm stepping in saying, parents, we got to make those boundaries. Have a charging station. And the very last one, be the example. This is the one that gets the most frustration, right? We can't expect our kids to not use their cell phone in bed if we have our cell phones out in bed, right? We can't expect our kids to not take it into the bathroom if we take it into the bathroom. We can't expect our kids not to use it when driving if we're using it when we're driving. You just can't. It's not fair. And of course you're saying, well, I'm older and more experienced, right? That whole conversation. Well, science says different on the driving one, but my point is, again, it's just hard to hold that commitment. Now, you are the parent, and so you are going to have some more privileges that they don't, right? We've had that conversation. But I just think that would be good for all of us. So at the end of the day, don't freak out. Just join them. The idea being, I'm not saying get rid of their phone. I am saying let's build some nice parameters, some boundaries for students to be able to grow under your roof. Because that's the idea, right? You've only got them for this window. How many high school parents do I have again? So quite a few. Are upper high school, younger high school? Okay, so they're leaving, right? They're leaving you anyway, as far as, maybe you're going to keep them home or whatever. But my point is, they're going to have a lot more freedom in the very near future. And so our goal is to train them up to make good decisions on their own, right? While they're here, not to keep restrictions that they're not going to keep on themselves, but instead help them understand, how do I develop boundaries myself? And I know, again, I'm really trying not to preach to the parent card, but I want to make sure I get out some of that information. So here's some really, really quick things. I'm sure that most of you are aware of this one. But this is Apple specific. If you want Android, you'll have to Google that one because there's just too many versions when it comes to Samsung, all the different Androids, to do restrictions for just one. But this one right here is specific to Apple. And so I always want to make sure that parents are aware of this. No matter whether they have a cell phone, an iPod, an iPad, a laptop, there are lots of built-in restrictions nowadays, parental controls, for just about everything, even video games. This one, though, I find pretty intriguing. You literally go to settings, and then the very next click is right there. It says right there, restrictions. Turn that on, and you have a list of restrictions. Everything, you can go as far as restricting how loud the phone can get, like how loud the audio can get on the phone, which I think would be smart sometimes when I see kids with it and you can hear the music. I think that's just not good either. And so it's pretty interesting. You can restrict the age limits on the apps and the games and the movies and the videos and all that stuff. And of course, they'll say, if you restrict, let's say 13 and down, then they're not going to have access to Netflix, the Netflix app. And so then you're going to have to decide, well, am I going to change the parameters, or does Netflix not count? Or YouTube isn't just not good? Well, they could still have access to YouTube Kids, which I know they're too old for that, but there are options out there to talk about. So there's that one. And the second piece is Family Share. So Family Share, and I'll be honest, I've been teaching this session, I've been talking about Family Share for 5 years, and I had yet to set up my Family Share until literally this past week. I was teaching at Enid High last week, and one of the parents called me out on it, so I was like, fine, you're right, I will get it done. So sat down and was like, I got to set this up. So essentially, what is Family Share, if you don't know, when it comes to iCloud and iTunes? You're basically setting up an account with one person at the top, and then they have kind of power over all the different devices. So when you turn on Family Share, it will show you, well, who do you want to add to your little family link? And you can have up to 5 individuals. And then those 5 you can link into the account to then you'll be able to see where they are anytime. It's kind of like Find a Friend and some of these apps out there, even Snapchat. And but it's built into your Family Share. On top of that, anytime they try to buy something, use iTunes in any way, shape, or form, it will actually send you a notification to approve or not approve. And then the last one on there is also when it comes to if they get a request in some of their apps, it's built into the software of the phone now, which is basically the best thing I can give you for really good restrictions, because that's the number one question at the end. And the first Q&A question, I guarantee you, will be, so what app can I buy to lock down their phone? And so there's just not one. We'll talk about it, but there's just not one that does everything you want it to do. The best case is going to be just be aware of what's going on, and the best way to do that is through things like Family Share. And so you simply do that by going to Settings and then clicking iCloud, and then from there, Get Started, and it'll walk you through that process. Again, there's a lot of cool YouTube tutorials for all of this. I just want to make sure I've covered the basis for many of you. Android has the new Family Link out. You can get through Google. So Google has a new app called Family Link, but it's only for Android devices. That's very cool. I recommend that one a great deal. It's basically all of that for Android devices. And so Family Link is the name of that one. So again,